Well, hello, hello. Welcome to our show, everyone, where we talk about our favorite movies. My name is Patrick, and with me is the man who teaches me about classic Hollywood, Darren Varel. How you doing, buddy?
Don't make me take off my shades, Pat.
Oh my God, I was hoping you would just start with that line.
I'm doing great, man. It's great to see you. Thanks
Don't
for
make me take off the shades. My
yeah.
God, this movie. Well, we're getting right into it. We are
Go ahead. Yeah,
starting.
let's do
We
it.
we are
Right
starting.
into bringing out the dead.
Love it. We are starting Cage Fest, and this is going to be a little series where we explore the works of one of my favorite actors, I'd say, definitely Nicolas Cage. The man has been around for as long as I remember movies, and he has his ups and downs depending on who you ask. But I think he's definitely one of the most enjoyable actors to watch in my journey of film watching. And today we're starting with the Martin Scorsese directed, based on a Paul Schrader script, the 1999 film Bringing Out the Dead. And I am excited to talk about this with you, bud. When was the last time you saw this movie?
Wow, when it came out,
Okay.
like you said,
Yeah.
1999. I had
Yeah.
not realized it was that long ago. And yeah, thanks for bringing this to my attention again because it is great. It is like a definitely overlooked Scorsese film, in my opinion. I mean, even the cast, I forgot how many like heavy hitters are in this. Patricia Arquette, um, and who's in the last 10 years, especially, I'd say she's just like killed the game. And it's cool to see her in this kind of, I'd say, mid-career for her. And then John Goodman, I totally forgot about. I totally forgot he was in this. But as you saw over the weekend when I texted you the picture of Tom Sizemore teaching acting class out here in LA, that is the heavy hitter for me. The most sought after actor of that time period, Tom Sizemore, playing just the perfect role, the role he was born to play, if you ask me. And just the sheer star power coming back here in 2023 and looking at it in 1999 is pretty incredible.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that you liked it back then and you're liking it now. Yeah, just a quick synopsis for anybody who hasn't seen this movie. Like I said, we're going to be focusing on Nicolas Cage in this episode and a couple other ones coming up. But yeah, this one is kind of an underrated hidden gem for both Cage and Scorsese. But Cage plays Frank Pierce, who's basically an insanely burnout emergency paramedic working the night shift in 90s New York City. And as the stress and unpredictability of the job starts to wear down on him, he begins to see the ghosts of people that he couldn't save. And essentially what makes this movie so interesting is that saving people is the main reason why Frank does the job. And he realizes he can't save everyone. That's something that we all kind of know intuitively, but when you're in that position, you're not always realizing that's the case. And like a drug, he does what he can to save people, but he starts to grapple with the loss that he can't control. And so, oh my God, I'm so excited. So did you see this in the theaters in 99?
Great synopsis, by the way. Wow. No, I don't think I did. I believe that I saw it on DVD, probably something that I had rented or bought, over there at Suncoast when we worked back there.
Oh yeah. So I did see this in the theaters. It came out in October in 99. So I literally just started high school. I was a freshman in high school. I can almost promise you I did not realize I was seeing a Martin Scorsese film at the time. Like, it was just a Friday night. I was going with my friends to a movie. And I guarantee I probably pushed for this one because I saw Nick Cage was in it. And I had previously seen Face Off the year before, which basically was the movie that sold me on Nick Cage for life. Was a masterpiece, still is a masterpiece. I really hope we get to talk about that movie one day on this, but yeah, like I just looking back, it's like I was watching this movie in the theater as like a freshman in high school. And like I said, I'm like 90% sure I did not appreciate that it was a Scorsese film. Certainly didn't appreciate it was a Paul Schrader script. Like I said, reteaming them from Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. And so it's just interesting. And I had not seen it since the theater. So I hadn't watched this in over 20 years. And just overall, I was most taken aback was how much of it I remembered, like scenes and like lines and kind of the tone of it, which is just a testament to Scorsese, is that I remembered that many scenes from seeing it so many years ago. I mean, there were movies that I watched last year that I couldn't even like name scenes from because they just didn't leave anything on me. But this one, because the power of Scorsese sticks with you. So yeah, I was really excited to kind of catch up with this one and see your thoughts on it.
Yeah, and knowing that you had gone to the theater thinking that you're just going to see a Nicolas Cage film,
Right.
1999, shows how much of a fan you are, because most people were going to see this film because it was a Martin Scorsese film, of course. In 1999, everybody at that point had loved Goodfellas and Casino. I think Casino before that was probably the movie before this, wasn't it? 98?
Casino was 95.
Oh, gotcha.
Kundun was 97.
Yeah.
Kundun, yeah. That was 97. And so I don't know if we're missing anything between that, but yeah, this is basically this follow up to that. And I mean, it's interesting because like you said, this is like a total underrated hidden gem, because like it didn't do too well at the box office. It didn't get any like nominations or anything, and it didn't really have like a lasting imprint. I mean, critics loved it. I saw that Ebert gave it 4 stars when it came out, but it didn't really like click with audiences, I don't think.
I don't think so either. And I have a feeling, I read somewhere, probably the Wikipedia, about it just being because it was dark. I mean, it is very dark. It's not, nobody really wants to think about hospitals or going to the hospital or their mortality. And so a lot of times, artistically, when people make movies like that, they don't do well. It's hard to get people into the theater to see that, as opposed to seeing Top Gun Maverick, which is just a fun thrill ride. And we'll talk about that later, I'm sure. But I also just wanted to say that, the idea of a movie, again, being Scorsese, and you went to go see it for Nicolas Cage, is pretty awesome. Scorsese and Paul Schrader, I had forgotten that, the great movies they had done together too. So this is like the trifecta for that, their writing and directing combo.
And I was thinking about this, I mean, because like Cage has never really been taken that seriously, even like in this time in 99, when he was like kind of had the most respect. Like he won his Oscar in 95 for
adaptation, I think was 2002. So
yeah, so it's like it's in his sweet spot where he's getting the most respect, but at the same time he was still, I don't know, he was still written off by a lot of people. But I almost feel like the fact that it was Scorsese and Schrader reteaming, and it was, I mean, there's obviously a lot of similarities to Taxi Driver. It's a burnt out loner driving around New York City through the nights, and it had those similarities, and then people just maybe kind of wrote it off because they maybe just didn't vibe with Cage, and they were just kind of seen as like a lesser Taxi Driver, I almost feel.
Yeah, he's an interesting choice for the lead in this. I won't deny that. I mean,
yeah,
it is.
I mean, it goes with the soundtrack perfectly well. So
sometimes it goes with what you say. Oftentimes when we talk about films and you're like, talk about like the life of a film, how long it will, what will it look like in 20 years or whatever, does it hold up? And that's why it's cool to revisit this here in 2023. And I also thought, Scorsese making some choices here that I haven't seen in a while. Definitely different filmmaking from him. I mean, the speeding up of the camera and things like that, everybody takes that for granted now because you have it on your phone, right? I mean, you can do like time lapses, and even with my art, I'm always doing time lapse stuff so people can see this process really quickly. But here, Scorsese obviously is using it to show the anxiety of the night, and like, the in and out, and like the monotony of the lights, and the monotony of like all of the calls that they have to go on. And also a really nice Easter egg of Scorsese's voice being used in this here as the dispatcher as well. I'm sure
pick up zebra, pick up the goddamn microphone, put the microphone to your face. Oh, yeah. He's so good at him, and Queen Latifah, the acting dispatchers. They're so good.
So good, yeah. And it's also cool because they do have that rotating, like who's going to be in the driver's seat or the passenger seat with Nicolas Cage, and like I mentioned earlier, Tom Sizemore and John Goodman, and then we also have who else do we have? I forgot.
It was Ving Rhames.
Oh, Ving Rhames, that's right.
Yeah, so I kind of I mean, it's basically like the 3 wise men or the 3 ghosts, however you want to see it. Like they visit him basically over the course of 3 nights. So first it's John Goodman, who's fucking amazing. Who I didn't even like the whole time watching it until after I'd even realized like this is like a legit like reteaming of them from Raising Arizona. but
Oh wow. Yeah.
they play such different characters that it didn't even like dawn on me. Like I've seen Raising Arizona like 100 times, and it didn't even dawn on me like while watching that, because they were playing such different characters. So yeah, it's the three of them visiting basically him over the course of his increasingly burnt out status. Goodman's just kind of like the almost like a comedic relief. Ving Rhames is like kind of the morality character, and then obviously the man Sizemore is just the fucking unhinged psychopath, baiting his worst tendencies, and goddamn is he so good.
Yeah.
Like I said, now that he's doing an acting class, I'm like, I'm gonna give up everything and just become a full-time actor if that's what the life of it looks like. Because
you can learn a lot, I'm sure. I'm sure Tom Sizemore, to be like as crazy as he is, you can't pick a better actor for that role. It was great, especially when they do like I was saying, like the time lapse stuff with him. He looks fucking deranged and insane.
Yeah.
The way he's filmed.
Such a fucking great entrance. The second movie that we've watched where the song "What's the Frequency, Kenneth" by REM is completely featured. We had the great dance scene in the movie that you love, Under a Silver Lake, with Andrew Garfield, and then that whole scene when that's the intro to Sizemore, and that just plays out with Noel while he's trying to kill himself, and Sizemore shows up. And so Noel is a character that is kind of like the wild card who's testing Nick Cage, where he's somebody who's so unhinged, but a kind soul, but he repeatedly wants to kill himself throughout the whole movie. And, Nick Cage's entire purpose is to save people's lives. So it's like, you never know which way that's going to go. So he catches up with Noel. Sizemore shows up, and even Noel like puts his head down because he's like, oh shit, I know this guy. I can't fuck with this guy because he's so fucking goddamn crazy.
Yeah, you kind of don't know what to expect, but at that character itself was an interesting test, always coming
Right.
in out of those. And if anybody has been to the emergency room or anything like that, I experienced that with my back issue that I talked about on this podcast before, and they're not fun. I mean, nobody wants to go there. And so those scenes where he does go in and out of the emergency room and he has to deliver the patients, it is very realistic, overbooked. The staff is tired as fuck, and you would think that these characters don't care. The thing is, they care too much, and that's why they're so burnt out, and that's why they're so mad at the patients, because they're like, come on, like, give us a break here. Like, we're human beings too. But it's not like they don't care. And so at the beginning of this episode, I had these sunglasses on where you've got like the guard who's like, okay, can't let anybody past here, because now you got to deal with the people that are like, what's going on with my loved one who's in there? You can't come back there.
Yeah.
Also, we may be overbooked and you can't bring anybody else here. And here we are 3 years after the beginning of the pandemic. And I mean, that's what people saw, a lot of overcrowded hospitals where people had to be turned away. And I read a quote or something from Scorsese where he said, like, that was my life for a while, whether it was my parents going in or whatever, there was ambulance rides all the time. And so he was kind of exercising that out of his body and his soul. And I can understand that, because going into those things, if you're hurt, that's the worst thing. But then the second worst thing is going to the hospital because, now you're hurt, and now you're in a place where there's anxiety and there's confusion and there's a lot of sickness around you. You got to be very mentally tough, but at the same time, you're in pain.
Totally. So, I mean, it was based on the novel by Joe Connolly. And I know he was a working paramedic. So he definitely drew from a lot of experiences like that. And I saw an interview when Scorsese was just praising the story and how much he related to it, and just how impressed he was with it. So I would be definitely interested in reading that book. I bet it's pretty intense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Scorsese too, like, the choices to make this like a very dark film.
Do you think it's dark?
Well, I'm thinking like as far as the way it looks. I mean, New York.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The way he shoots
like
New York City at night,
yeah.
And then those hours of
right,
late night when there's trouble happening, and even some of the voiceover that happens talking about just before it's dawn, when you think like, I can finally close my eyes. It's kind of like it comes back at you, and these people who are driving these ambulances just get no rest.
Yeah. So I mean, the tone of the movie I think is actually extremely, like, it's fun as hell to watch, like with the soundtrack, the Clash going the whole time.
Clash
Like
twice.
what's that?
They played 2 Clash songs in that.
Yeah, the Clash all over the place. I mean, so this movie is fun as hell in terms of tone. But yeah, like in terms of like the lighting, yeah, I love how dark it is and how much he uses the lights of like the ambulance and the late night city to like just like show like how like drunk and stoned and just like how much of a rush Cage and the other paramedics are like getting from like trying to save lives. It's like what they're doing. It's like that's basically their drug at night. So you kind of see that with the lights and everything. And then it's always like flip. There's just a couple scenes, only like 2 scenes like during the day. There's that one when he gets home after the first or second night and he's just kind of walking through his apartment and it's like super, the lighting is like super toned and it just feels like really warm and everything. It's like such a good juxtaposition to like what you were just like seeing the frenzied shots with the lights and everything. And then with all of that, like in the night, like there's like this weird thing where like a lot of the characters, especially Cage and the people he's trying to save, are like just like the lighting is like shown right on them. It's like almost looking like there's lighting coming up from like below or from above, like they're angels or something, to like show like what these characters are, where they're at, like where he's trying to save them and they may be going to heaven at the time.
Yeah, 100%. There's some things, like I said, with Scorsese playing with the camera where it does tilt on its side. It's all of what he's doing with the camera is really trying to get into the mind and the psychosis of the city. The city is a huge character, of course.
Yeah.
And then also Nicolas Cage and like how he's, being affected by all of these things. And as time goes on, you see him become more and more unhinged. And like you said, there is a duality to it. There's really the fun, like you mentioned. This is why Scorsese is such a great filmmaker as well, because it is dark. It's what I said is true. It's a very darkly, the way it looks is very dark, but it is really fun, like you mentioned too. And a lot of ways that he is able to accomplish a lot of that stuff is, when the ambulance flips over and it's like pretty drastic scene. I mean, They are driving, they're also drinking at that time, and the car flips over and then they like are laughing and giggling and coming out of the top and he says, "I quit." And like, it's super fun, but it's also super dramatic and pretty dark, so there's that duality there is done really, really well.
Couldn't agree more. So I think like the drugs are kind of the overarching theme of this movie, just drugs in general. So there's actual drugs throughout the whole movie, like overdoses are all over the place. That's like half the calls that they get from Marty when he's on the dispatcher. There's that Red Death drug, which is like this new drug that people are taking that's like just causing total overdoses and people losing their lives. Oh, and Omar is taking Omar from The Wire shows up in a quick scene. He's a shooting victim. Doesn't really have too many lines, but you could definitely tell it's him, and he's definitely given it everything he's got before The Wire started. And then there's the Oasis. This is the drug den run by Cliff Curtis that Nick Cage goes to a couple times in the middle and then to the end to save Mary. And all that is with, like I was saying, like Frank, Nick Cage's character, he's addicted to saving people. Like this whole movie is like exploring his addiction to that and then trying to free himself from that. And
everybody's trying to overcome some sort of addiction, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's not drugs.
Yeah.
The addiction to try to save people is what Nicolas Cage would be addicted to. I mean, obviously he's talking about drinking a lot, but I don't think Nicolas Cage is really shown as like an alcoholic. I think he's just like, he needs something to help him fall asleep, calm him down, and his drug of choice would be alcohol. He talks about drinking a lot. Other people use, like you said, this red death drug, and I feel like that's kind of like timely as far as like, seems like there's always some sort of epidemic in a city, a big city, every 10 years or so, that kind of takes everybody by storm and starts killing people. And I think that like Scorsese knew that. This time, what we're living through right now would be fentanyl, right? And it's kind of like the drug that's being circulated that's looking at as like the dirty drugs, the drugs that are cut or whatever. And so there's a lot of different drugs, like almost like that one time when he goes to save Mary, and it's a great scene because that guy is like so able to be like the guy who's not like, get the fuck out of here. He's like very like, hey, come on in, like let's talk to you. What do you need? Like, and able to like actually get Nicolas Cage to do that drug. There's those drug dealers too that are very manipulative, and like they're gonna give you what you need. They know what they need, and they're gonna manipulate you to be able to like get it from the drug.
And that was the main drug dealer, Cy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Cliff Curtis, who I fucking love. Like, he's just like this character actor who's just shown up in like smaller roles throughout over the years. He was in Blow. He played at Pablo Escobar in Blow. He was in Sunshine. He was in one of the Die Hards, and then now we can't go an episode where I don't talk Avatar. He plays the he's a major character in the new Avatar. He plays he plays the head of the new clan that they meet, the Water Clan, he's married to Kate Winslet. It's like that's the character he plays in that movie, and he's great in it. So he's
actually in a TV series called not The Walking Dead, but it was a spinoff of it. And he played like the dad. I think he was short-lived in that, but
okay.
He was really great in that too. Like
kind
of like one of those character actors that flies under the radar a little bit, but he's excellent. He was great in this.
Well, I mean, he plays a lot of different ethnicities over the years. He's played like Middle Eastern characters. He's played Latino characters. He's played Black characters. I think he was in Training Day as well with Ethan Hawke. He's kind of one of those Hollywood characters where like you could play a couple different ethnicities. So we're gonna kind of roll you around to different roles. So I think that's why sometimes he goes under the radar.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's that. So that end scene with they get to the Oasis. The first time he goes, Nick Cage has that awesome drug trip when he's literally pulling people out from the streets, literally like saving them like while he's having his drug trip. And then he gets the second call is to actually address, like, it looked like a drug deal gone bad. And we end up seeing Cliff Curtis, like impaled on the fence. And that's his goal, is to like get him off like these sparks are going to like saw off the fence, and it just looks like these fireworks are going like over the New York City skyline while he's like being there in such a vulnerable state of like almost losing his life. And he's like, am I going to live or am I going to die? And Nick Cage is just calming him down. It's like, no, you're going to live.
There's as anybody who's listening knows and who enjoys Scorsese, there's a lot of religious undertones of this film. And sometimes obviously it's very in your face. A lot of times in like Reflection, you can see like the Virgin Mary, or they talk about the Virgin Mary, like the statue of that saint that's in the pizza box that they used to give in New York. And then also in that scene, Cliff Curtis is basically in the Jesus pose, right?
Yeah.
On the fence. And the thing that you mentioned earlier about the white glow light that goes on to people, it's very, very on purpose. It's very, very much why Scorsese is a genius. And I love that scene for so many reasons, especially too, like, talk about living in the moment. He's talking about these sparks that are coming on as the guy's like trying to cut him down from the fence. And like the chaos comes to like that's the end. What, like, the night ends here with me impaled by a fence, almost falling over trying to save the guy who was impaled over the fence for Nicolas Cage. It's like at that point, I think he realizes like, I've done everything I've could to save like everybody. I've gone the distance.
I fucking love it. And so we haven't mentioned he's been seeing kind of ghosts, but there's one specific ghost, is Rose, which is a young woman that he was not able to save. We see about halfway through the movie the actual flashback to like when he couldn't save her, but like right at the beginning and throughout the whole film, Rose as a ghost keeps on showing up, and that's just the constant reminder of like what this guy's going through, what he's seeing, and why he keeps on chasing this high. And I really do like how it gets like tied all together with the character of Burke. So Burke is the very first call that they get. It's the father of Patricia Arquette, He has a heart attack. They basically pronounce him dead, but he keeps on fighting, ends up not dying on the scene. And throughout the whole movie, he keeps on like wavering back and forth of like basically on the brink of death, but he's such a fighter, he keeps on pulling through. But at the same time, you know, he can't really survive. And Nick Cage doesn't quite realize that he can't save him either. And so we basically get to the end when he grapples with the fact that he can't save him, and he basically commits to letting him go. And I think that like such like a fucking great way of like tying everything up of like this addiction that he's been going through the whole time of trying to save people, and him just realizing that no, that's not the case. And there's a perfect line. So right around the time of Burke's death at the end, he sees Rose. He says, please forgive me, Rose. And she says, that's all right. No one asked you to suffer. That was your idea. And so like that was letting that go is like, you put your effort in, like try to save all these people, but the suffering was unnecessary. And that's like such a like a Buddhist like take on it. It's like pain is part of life, but suffering is not. Doesn't have to be, at least. So
that's beautiful. I also love there's a moment between him and Patricia Arquette kind of towards the end, right before Nicolas Cage decides to go and actually end the life of Burke. And he says there's a conversation between them about dying. And he basically says, we're all dying, you know. It's a lot about letting go at that point, and that's why he decides to make that, because he knows by the character of Burke being able to pass, it's going to help Burke himself, because he's not going to live a life that's going to be anything animated. I mean, he's going to what they call him a vegetable or plant food. And it's also tough on the family, but of course, like what the people at the hospital are saying is, well, the family wants us to keep them going, so we're going to continue to do that, even though Nicolas Cage is realizing like it's actually really bad for the family. They just can't let go of it because they love him, of course, you know. And that's something that people struggle with every day, right? I mean, it's a hard decision. It's like, what do you do in those situations? And so, of course, Nicolas Cage finally decides to let him go.
Yeah, I mean, and you kind of see it through the Patricia Arquette character. It's like she's just kind of like this lost soul who has her own addiction to drugs, and it just keeps on getting worse the longer her father's inevitable death is drawn out.
Right.
Yeah. So
and going to even, you know, relapse because of the fact that she's going through this, and she was doing good she said she was clean for 2 years, but then because of this struggle with the father, she's going back to drugs. And I think that's like another part of it. Like, would she have gone back to drugs again if her father, like, this didn't happen, you know? It's all part of that process.
Oh, too good. So I'm curious, like, so it was based on the book by Joe Connolly. Schrader adapted the script, so that's why I'm interested in reading the book, because I'm definitely familiar with Schrader's style, because it actually reminds me a lot of First Reformed with Ethan Hawke. Very different movies, but in terms of like the crisis of faith and the addiction and the coming to terms with not being able to save everyone, there's tons of parallels with First Reformed. That's a script and directed by Schrader. So that's why I'm curious. Have you seen First Reformed?
I haven't.
Yeah, that's definitely an awesome one. That was the major snub from Ethan Hawke when he didn't get nominated for Best Actor. That was like a huge outcry, because if he was going to get one, it would have been for that, and much deserved. So
yeah, I've been actually digging Ethan Hawke a lot. You know, watching those Before Sunrise and everything. I hadn't seen those before, and I had just recently watched all 3 of them.
Oh shit.
Linklater, you know, films.
Hell yeah.
I'm sure you've seen them, but they were on Criterion just like a couple months ago, and I watched them, and I was like, man, I have a big respect for Ethan Hawke. I mean, I love Boyhood and everything, you know, and all his Linklater films, but and you know, I guess, you know, he's a 90s heartthrob, right? So kind of always thought of him that way, but now I know him as like pretty serious, great actor.
Oh, those three, that trilogy is so good. And then you see it, like looking back, it's like the first one was like 95, I think. It's like, oh yeah, Linklater was obsessed with how time works ever since then. I mean, it's like him making those movies every 9 years between the three. I think it's 9 years, and then just that is obviously like a precursor to him like doing Boyhood and like the 12-year span of what that was. I think
kind of an interesting thing that we talked about last week about Tarantino being pretty aware about time and his time here on this earth. And I'm more and more as I get older, like knowing about directors or artists or anybody that have that understanding of time and what it means to them and their life and their work. That's really a pretty big secret, I think, understanding like how your work is going to look over the year, like what you're doing right now, like whether you're, creating art, but you decide to do it for somebody else instead of yourself, like, whatever those decisions you make is what's going to happen down the line, and it's going to at least help the path of where you're going to end up. And those ideas of focusing on time for Linklater is such an interesting, no filmmaker's ever done that, that I know of, is actually documenting somebody in Boyhood, somebody growing up all of those years like that.
The Up series, the documentaries from
right. I love those too. Yes.
Those are fucking incredible. The last one was 64, I think. So I mean, if you don't know what we're talking, it's the British documentary that started in the 60s. It's all these school kids, started with 7 Up, and they followed them every 7 years. And the last one came out like maybe 4 years ago. I caught it at the Music Box. They were one of the few to play, and I think 64 is the last age that it was.
Wow. Yeah, I know you've always been a fan of those. You've always talked to me about them.
63. Yeah, it's definitely 63. So the next one will be 70. Although the director, Michael Apted, he was like a PA on the first one and the second, and then he directed every subsequent one since then. And he just passed away not that long ago. So this is going to be the first time when it's actually not him. I think they are going to do another one where they're 70. With one of his assistants who's worked with him for a long time, but it might actually be over. But yeah, that watching those, I mean, that's a documentary, so you're not seeing any like narrative
Right.
wise, though that Linklater stuff probably is the first stuff to do it. But watching those characters, that's pretty impressive feat.
The more and more like thought you put into your art, I mean, and understanding of time and all those kind of things is like the better the art's going to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes not right away. Sometimes you have to wait a little bit to understand, the life of it, but that's what good art is. So for sure, I got to rewatch those Up series. I haven't watched them since you told me about the first couple back in the day. I didn't realize they were still making them, to be honest.
Oh yeah. And they've had, obviously, when you get into your 40s, 50s, and 60s, that's when life starts hitting you in the face, and you definitely see that in the documentary with a couple of the characters. So. Not to give anything away, but yeah, those are so good. Yeah.
There's one thing I want to say about the ending if we're getting towards the end of our conversation. I just wanted to wait until we were there.
I mean, I fucking love this movie. To stress again the soundtrack, the score and the songs that he uses, like obviously you said, a bunch of Clash songs, the Stones, the Vandells. Like I mentioned, that awesome REM scene, the entire song is played. It's so well done. Some Janis Joplin in there. It's just like, it really catches like these guys are working late nights. They could be drinking and partying at a bar all night, but this is what they're doing with their nights. And so that's what the high that they're going for. And that's what the music is trying to capture.
Thelma Schoonmaker too, editing is a classic Scorsese partnership, and
right
got to throw out like a obvious tip of the cap to her. I mean, she's just insanely legendary, but she's done a great job with this film because of the fact that you got like Scorsese making all of these decisions about how the camera is going to look, and then her editing it, and editing it to the music, of course. And the idea, I would love to know, if I would imagine it was Scorsese's to use that whole song, that whole REM song. That's another Scorsese thing that he'll do. He'll play the whole fucking song out. It's not just a clip, and it's kind of amazing.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, this is the first Scorsese movie that we've done, and I know we're gonna do plenty more. But yeah, my God, it's like, I mean, that's the thing. It's like with certain filmmakers, it's like the best filmmakers understand the effect of music, and so it's like all the best auteurs just have the fucking best music in their movies. It's not a coincidence. So
Yeah, I mean, but also like Scorsese is kind of the pioneer of that, like taking music that kicks fucking ass and putting it into like the most what you wouldn't think would be fitting scenes, like especially like in Mean Streets when you got that whole scene in the beginning and that fight
yeah,
scene.
yeah,
Scorsese, I mean, Scorsese's there's a reason why all of us film geeks, get insanely.
yeah. When you said, when you mentioned that he's a pioneer, I immediately thought of De Niro walking into the bar with Jumpin' Jack Flash, which is obviously the coolest. But then, yeah, I completely forgot about that fight scene in the pool room with Mr. Postman playing. It's like, where do you come up with that pick? And yet it's like better than any other music choice you can choose for a pool room fight.
You know why? Because I've heard something recently about, do you want to be a good, artist? Go to the museum. Do you want
Yeah.
to be, a good artist? Go listen to some fucking music from the 50s. Go listen to some music from the 60s. Go listen to, some jazz. Go listen to some punk. Like immerse yourself in art, and then you will be a great artist because you are able to pull upon all of those things that are awesome. And when you need to, one day you can pull out, oh, I remember seeing this great work of art. I should put that in my film. I remember hearing this great song that would work so well against this because it's in your memory bank. And that's why it's so important to immerse yourself in the arts.
Well, I want to thank you for pulling Quiz Kid Donnie Smith from your brain and
Yeah.
putting up this amazing picture that you got. If you're watching us on YouTube, or if you're just listening to us, we have this awesome picture of Quiz Kid Donnie Smith from Magnolia.
Oh man.
Oh, so
What a
good.
character. I mean, what a movie that is. And I was just having super just a quick second. I've been having like super like geeking out vibes about Tom Cruise after watching Top Gun Maverick, which I'll talk about in a minute. But possibly my favorite role of his is Frank T.J. Mackey in that film. We got to do a Paul Thomas Anderson series at some point. I mean, I would geek out for sure on Magnolia because I love that film.
Magnolia is top tier. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we could wrap it up. I know I want to get to talk to a couple other things, including the Tom Cruise stuff.
Well, let me just say this at the end, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, that's what I
I
meant.
just have one last thing I wanted to mention about this film, and I wanted to see what you thought. And thanks for asking me some questions about this film because it's cool talking to you about it. I actually learned a lot of things I didn't really catch about it. And especially the Queen Latifah part. I didn't realize she was one of the dispatchers, so that's awesome. Yeah. But yeah, the last scene I thought about a lot. And it's finally like the whole time Nicolas Cage's character is Frank, and he finally gets into, she invites, Patricia Arquette invites him into her apartment, and that glow that you're talking about that happens on the characters finally ascends upon Nicolas Cage when he's able to get some rest. And he's for sure in her arms, and she's in that Madonna pose. Very, very religious, very, very spiritual. Scorsese, growing up Catholic, having all of that religious imagery, and then the white light coming upon him, where he's finally able to get some rest. He's finally, to me, and I would love to know what you thought. I thought that it was the kind of like the perfect ending. Like for him, he can finally get some rest, and he's in the arms of somebody who's going to take care of him, who is starting to understand what he needs, and he's going to get like that rest he desperately needs. For her, she can rest now because her father has passed on, and the glow comes in because they're both now released from all of this horror that had befallen their lives, and reminded me a lot of something my girlfriend had told me. Someone that she worked with mentioned to her, and the line is something like, it's a cold world out there, you need someone in your life to keep it all together. And I think that that's the ending. that they finally like both were able to find themselves throughout the chaos because it's cold as fuck out there. But you need to have that like you said, you were using the word oasis earlier to talk about the drug den, but you need to have that island that you can escape the world in, sometimes with somebody that loves you and that cares about you. It doesn't matter if it's a romantic love or it's a love of your family or the love of, like, I don't know, a cat or a dog. I mean, these are things that we need in life to be able to get away from, the horror that's outside, and it's all over. That's just part of life.
Wow, I love that. That's a beautiful way to put it. Yeah. So that final scene when they're cradled together and the light shines on. I mean, I definitely agree with you there, especially pointing out like it's not necessarily like another person that finding that solace in. Like it's love represented in any form. And so not necessarily like two people coming together, but like finding solace in love, either taking it in or giving it out. And that's kind of how I read it, because it's definitely, again, like looking at something like I mentioned, the other Paul Schrader script, which has an extremely ambiguous ending, where, not to give too much away, but it could be read as solace and it could be read as death. And I kind of saw a little bit of that in this as well. It's like it's whether or not saying like any of this was like a dream or kind of made up in his mind or anything, but like there's definitely him finding solace and peace. Death is
There's a piece for sure, but I
Yeah.
never thought of it the way you were talking about it. That's
Yeah.
interesting too. Yeah,
I mean,
a sort of death, right?
death is part of life, and there is a peace in death. It's not a bad thing. It's just part of life. And so, and to portray it in that light, I think is possible. But I'm not saying that that's what it was going for, but like based on like seeing enough Scorsese movies and Schrader movies, that that ambiguity of like how it turns out is definitely not as clear as I would as a dummy like me would be able to figure it out. So
Well, it's more of a theme, and that's what another thing that like is your keen insight of like having seen many of his films adapted to the screen. You can kind of see that that's a reoccurring theme. I don't know, maybe people out there that are listening, let us know what you think. I mean, I thought that was sort of a coming together moment where they're washed of all of this dirt from the night and the horror of the night. And maybe Pat's saying that could be a death, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's not a cleansing. It could be maybe that they're dying in some way, right?
figuring it out is way above my pay grade. So,
but either way, it makes you think, and that's what a great movie
there's
does,
no
right?
right or wrong. So, I mean, that's the beautiful thing about like writers is they'll write something, and then the viewers and the readers will take it a million miles higher or in a different direction from what they've meant. So
Art in general, right?
That's the fun part of it, though. So,
I mean, if you listen to a song, there's no way that song is going to mean the same thing to you as it means to me. And
right.
That's art,
Love it. Yeah. Speaking of music, we like music. Any other closing thoughts about this amazing movie?
No, Nicolas Cage. You liked Nicolas Cage before it came cool to like Nicolas Cage and the zany fucking crazy Nicolas Cage. So I want to say hats off to you for following down that road. I know you just recently picked up a book about Nicolas Cage, right?
Yeah, I read it. I don't know where it's at. I finished it. It's a pretty quick read. The Age of Cage. I'll show it next week. We got another Nicolas Cage movie coming up. We're watching Mandy, the Psycho Dream Metal Nightmare from 2018, which is a fucking a beautiful late stage Nick Cage. But yeah, The Age of Cage, great book. Just like it was just like a overall survey of his career. Just went from start to finish. Not too much about his personal life or anything. It was just purely about his career and like the types of movies that he was like going for, and kind of again, like importantly for Nicolas Cage is like audience reactions. Like he was for so many years, and still among this time, it's like he did so many crappy movies, and yet he was still a great actor. So he was just like in this, he's just always been like a wild card with,
there's been a lot
with acting.
There's been so many things where like I'll be like I don't know, a few years ago talking to somebody about something that they have a project for, and they'll be like, we think we can get Nicolas Cage. Like, I was like, literally fucking Nicolas Cage? You can get Nicolas Cage for your script? And the answer is yes, because
Yeah.
from what I remember, he had some problems with the government as well as far as money, and he kind of needed to take all of those roles. Isn't that right?
I mean, he's a insane money spender. He buys like dinosaur bones and castles. Like that's where his money goes. And so that's what he's made so many direct to video crappy movies over the last like 20 years. I mean, by no means a Nicolas Cage completist, because he has so much garbage to go along with the amazing performances that he puts in when when he's working with an amazing director like Scorsese.
I think he's gone on record to say that was his favorite performance thus far.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I definitely I mean, we'll keep on talking about it, but he's got so many different phases in his career of like and like I said, like Face Off is still one of my favorite Nicolas
Totally
Cage.
forgot about Raising Arizona too. I used to watch that all the time when I was, and that's early Coen brothers, if I remember right.
Raising Arizona, another classic. I mean, his career started off amazing, and it's just he's had interesting work ever since he started, but it's just been it sometimes gets drowned out with all the direct-to-video TV movies that he makes for the scripts that, yes, we can get Nicolas Cage for this one. He bought another dinosaur bone, so he needs this movie.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we could talk on forever. We could talk about Pig, which I just recently saw. We could, talk about I'm sorry. What's the guy who's like, is this
Renfield.
Renfield.
Well,
Yeah,
that's the one he's making right now.
Yeah. Yes, and I obviously I can't wait for that. The crazy thing is, it's a Universal picture.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, that makes me think that that's a little bit more like legit than anything. But yeah, it looks great.
Maybe they're trying to kickstart that Universal shared universe again, that with the failed one, which Tom Cruise started, and unfortunately,
with the Mummy.
Yeah, that was the beginning of them. Like, we're going to do a Marvel universe with the Universal creatures. Which, when I heard that, I was like, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. But obviously, the Mummy was not that great, so I didn't go anywhere.
I have not seen, but now that I'm on a Tom Cruise kick, I probably will.
All right, love it. Well, any last thoughts? We'll get to music and Tom Cruise then.
Yeah, can't wait.
Do you want to do music first?
Yeah, let's do music.
Yeah. All right. How about you go first?
All right. So hey, everybody listening here, we usually do a little bit of discussion about what we're listening to, what we're digging, and then we put it on a playlist. So you can find the playlist. Pat usually puts it in the show notes. He's got a really cool list going of every single one we've done, starting basically last year, halfway through last year, up until now. So that's going to be this section. And then we talk a little bit about what we've been doing. So yeah, we'll open it up right now to the music that I've been listening to. And I was out to dinner Friday night, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was a couple weekends before that. But either way, a lot of things that I like to listen to, I like Shazam. What's the song is this right now? And I was in the bathroom at this place over on Los Feliz Boulevard. I had to use the bathroom really quick, and so I'm washing my hands, and I'm like, oh shit, this song's awesome. And I Shazammed it real quick. What song is this? Everybody like in the urinal looks over at me like, what the fuck is this guy doing? But I had to know. I was like, I got a I've done that a bunch of times. One time I did it, and it was at a concert right before the act went on, and I heard this song. It was like a split second. I'm like, oh God, I got to get this song really quick. And I was like, what is this? There's so many people talking, and luckily it came through, and it became like one of my favorite songs of all time. Maybe I'll do that next week so you can know what that is. But anyway, that was my date night with my lady, and the song was Crimson Wave by Taco Cat. Had you ever heard of Taco Cat before?
I mean, sounds familiar. Now, I mean, yeah, I definitely don't know, but.
Oh, I didn't know anything about them at all. And this song is called Crimson Wave, and it was just super fun, super punky kind of. And I got home, listened to it again, loved it. I'm like, man, what is she singing about, And then I watched the video. The video was so fun and everything. And then it hit me, man, she's singing about the menstrual cycle. The entire song is about the menstrual cycle, and it's fucking brilliant.
Mhm.
The band's called Taco Cat. The song's called Crimson Wave, and I'm excited for anybody out there who hasn't heard it. I believe it was 2014 song, so yeah, it had escaped me up until 2023, and now I can share it with you. Enjoy it. Let us know what you think.
Hell yeah. Punk rock band from Seattle, founded in 2007. Bree McKenna. Bree McKenna sounds familiar. All right, awesome. Definitely going to check this out. Yeah, they're definitely not on my radar. So
Yeah, and by the way, I've been crushing your pick from last week. Holy crap, man. That is some awesome the metal tune that you told me about, or the black metal song.
oh, Hour of the Wolf by
Yeah,
Tribulation.
yeah, I've been listening to it a lot.
That's, I mean, I talked about Tribulation last week. Yeah, fucking great band from Sweden. Like I said, I saw them a couple times here in Chicago. They have a very unique melodic dark metal vibe. Like that song has like punk kind of chords to it. It's just there's such like a great combination of like black metal and hard traditional hard rock. Yeah, love to hear
I
that.
actually was looking for them at I was looking for them at Amoeba the other day, to buy a record, because I was like,
Oh yeah,
I really like this band, and they actually have like a black metal, dark metal section. So,
oh yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
Well, I'll send you. Yeah, so their Children of the Night was their 2015 album. That's my favorite album from them. So I'll send you a link. Make sure you listen through that one all the way through, because some definite bangers on there. So,
so what's your pick for this week?
all right, yeah. So this week, we lost Tom Verlaine of Television, which is a band that I love. He was a punk legend. Marquee Moon is an absolute favorite album from my 20s, from 1977. And we lost him. I really didn't know too much about him. I just know that he passed away. But Marquee Moon was an absolute essential album for me in my 20s. I definitely discovered Television through the Strokes. When I was 19, the Strokes were like my band for sure. Room on Fire, their second album, I definitely spent a summer where it was legit like the only album I listened to for the whole summer, because I loved it so much. And I remember reading how much of an influence Television had on the Strokes, but especially that album. And that's kind of how I got into Marquee Moon. And once I discovered that album, definitely sold on it. So like one of my favorite, I mean, the whole album's great, but my pick this week is Venus, track 3, I think. And such a great song. Little tongue-in-cheek lyrics, he fell into the arms of Venus de Milo. Venus de Milo doesn't have arms. How do you come up with that? So
Amazing.
Yeah. What's your relationship with Television? Have you
You know,
I'm a big fan of them? Not too much.
It's funny because no, I'm not like a gigantic understanding of their catalog. I hadn't known that he had passed away, and I remember Television being a big part of like the CBGB's underground New York scene.
Definitely.
So that's one that escaped me as far as that scene. Another one that kind of escapes me sometimes is the Talking Heads. Obviously I know a lot of their music, but they're kind of like interesting punk, it wasn't like the 3-chord Ramones punk that I was just like, and even like I love Blondie and stuff like that, but like all those bands are so eclectic from each other, yet still the same. Those must have been amazing to see back in the CBGB's days,
I mean, yeah, speaking of New York City, all these coming out of 70s New York. Television was kind of the, I don't know, artsy punk, I guess is a good way to put it.
Kind
I
of
think
like
a lot
the
of
Talking Heads, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people in the punk scene kind of dismissed them for that. But at the same time, I think they were kind of pretentious. I don't know them, I don't read too much about them and their personal lives, but I mean, they ran with like Patti Smith and Blondie, but like I said, like getting into them through the Strokes, they were one of my favorite bands early. And I mean, Tom Verlaine, or I should say Julian Casablancas, sounds a hell of a lot like Tom Verlaine when you hear, like, especially on this song. It's like this almost sounds like a song that could have been on Room on Fire. That's how similar it sounds. And like I said, that's how I got into it. And yeah, it definitely just opened up. I mean, it's a good example of like kind of what you were saying is like submerge yourself in art. And one of my favorite ways of doing that is like consume or check out the art that your favorite artists like. You know, it's like, I mean, it's obviously not too like innovative, but like it's such a consistently great way to like discover new things. It's like your favorite music, listen to what they are listening to. Your favorite writers, read what they're writing. You know, like your favorite directors, look what they're watching. It's like, it's just such a simple and amazingly effective way, especially more so now, like as we get like everything's more like specialized. It's like it's so easy to kind of go down an algorithm rather than like an actual person who was inspired by the art that they consumed when they were younger and what inspired them. So
well said. And yeah, it's simple, but that's why it works, you know. I'm kind of like the biggest thing that is a pet peeve like lately, and I think I was able to turn it off on my Spotify, but like when they recommend songs they think I'm going to like because I listen to The Clash or the Ramones, I fucking can't stand that. I want some computer telling me like what I should be listening to or like what they think I like, you know what I mean? That's why going and hearing a song in a bathroom like I did in the old days, you know, like popping into a music store and hearing the song that the record that they're playing, popping into a movie store and seeing the movie that the people behind the counter are playing. I'd rather any day get that recommendation, you know, like somebody it was Mess Hall on Los Feliz Boulevard. We had a great time over there. It's such a cool little restaurant, and somebody there had that on their playlist for sure. Like, you know, somebody liked that song a lot, and I love that. I love getting those recommendations from real people in the world who are just like, you know, I want to hear this while I work, and hopefully someone else hears it too. Well, I heard it, I fucking love it.
Yeah. I mean, we're basically describing like why we're doing this podcast in the first place. It's obviously enjoyable to talk to you every week, but that's legit like why we do this. This is like sharing the best art that means something special to us. Is like, it's one of the best parts of life, I think. So
well, cool. I can't wait to hear that song. I loved, by the way, the last Strokes record, the new Abnormal.
It was good, man. Yeah. It was I only listened to it once. I listened to it like right when it came out. I need to re-listen to it again, but like it was definitely kind of one of their first albums where they really went for like a different sound, because everything before them, you know, which is totally cool. It's just they were always kind of chasing the song from their first two albums, but like
kind of
this
like
one,
grungy, kind of garage rocky. It's
I mean,
a bit of a departure from that, I'd say. Yeah,
it was fucking great. I was happy to see like how innovative and just how good it was. So
also a Rick Rubin record.
Oh, did he produce that last one? Nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
If you don't mind, I'm going to plug a little bit of my art. Do you mind?
Sure, why not?
I knew you'd say yes. I have new prints coming, and I wanted to talk quickly with anybody that's listening that has enjoyed any of my art. I know you're not going to be able to see it unless you're looking at these on YouTube, but I decided to do a 20-year retrospective of the pictures that I'm have been taking over the years. I always, you know, whether I was doing art at the time, like physically painting, or doing music, I always had a camera with me, whether it was a digital camera or my cell phone, or in the later years here, since like 2012, I bought like a Canon camera, a really nice one. And any place that I've been in the world, I've been able to take photos of things that I've thought are interesting. Now, of course, I have a million photos just like everybody else does in my Dropbox, but I've curated this to be just the best from the years. Sometimes that means some years may only have 3 photos. Some years might have 50 photos. I really wanted to do a retrospective, and I wanted to make prints of all of those and make them special. So I'm only going to do 1 print of each photo. I'm releasing them every Monday, all in 2023. So it'll be a celebration, a retrospective of my photography since 2002 to 2022. And I just launched it today. So I'm going to show a couple of these. This is the ADAT machine that we used when we first went to Atlas Studios to record some Scissors records. That's at Atlas, where all the Alkaline Trio records were made and all that. And I got this little logo that I've been doing, and then I'm marking down, you know, when it was taken, the location, the camera that I used, and the edition with my signature there, and then a little explanation of what the picture is. And so there's only one of these. that is going to exist ever. And this is the print of it. And, you know, I've got them online for $35 and no shipping, free shipping. A couple other ones that I've got. So I released 5 today. 2 of them sold. Maybe some other ones have sold since we've been talking. I don't know. We'll see. Like, cool. You know, this is like right when we went to go record. I've been doing fun shit without me.
Hell yeah.
In a really weird space in my life. And I was kind of like, it was like we're talking about in Bringing Out the Dead. There was like a duality to it. Like I'm doing something fun, but I was really missing the girlfriend that had broken up with me. So I took this photo to kind of commemorate that. And yeah, I've got these at the back. This one actually sold. This is this double door awning outside, which is no longer with us, as we know. Double Door in Chicago shut down. I think they've opened a new location, but where it used to be is gone. And then I've got a few other prints that I've made of some artwork. You'll love this one. Fuck this shit, you know, Chicago, Illinois. I love that one. That painting behind me, I've got prints of that too going. And there's a print of William H. Macy, Steel Magnolias. And P22, which just had its memorial yesterday at the Greek. We talked about this last time, and a few more. So yeah, anyway, DarrenVarel.com. I've been excited to show off my photography. I've been waiting for a while to do it. It took me a long time to curate it. It took me a long time to really like perfect them and then get them printed. They're all Giggly prints, which means it's archival paper and archival ink, and that means they'll last over 100 years if they're taken care of properly, like museum quality shit. So there's my plug.
Oh my goodness. I am excited to cruise your website and check out the best pieces. So exciting. Those look great.
Thanks for giving me a platform, you know, on Remainders here to talk about it. Cause you know, I know that we're talking about movies and stuff like that, but like I mentioned earlier, a lot of these things like are things that like are inspiration for other things that I do, you know, things that I've seen through the years will inspire a song or inspire something that I paint.
I mean, as soon as the dividend checks come in, I'm stealing that Steel Magnolias painting. So I want that original. So
you're the man. Yeah, I know. I feel like once Remainders becomes the biggest podcast in the world, we're just gonna buy 2 houses next to each other, and then, you know, I'll bring some art over for you to put on the walls.
I mean, I need the movie art, and you're feeding that craving I got. So I love it.
I know. I feel like because here in Los Feliz, there's like 2 houses. One was like where Roy Disney lived, and one where Walt Disney lived. And as soon as they started growing, they like got the house that had like the adjoining like backyard. You can go see it on Lyric. Like there's like 5 or 6 locations here, like right around in my area where Disney like hopped around. And you know, the Gelson's that we had drinks at the bar is where Snow White was made. I mean, they've since bulldozed it, but there's all these cool little places. And I always love the fact that like Walt Disney and Roy Disney like lived next to each other, and they could just like go in and meet in the backyard and probably like have a cup of coffee and a cigar and talk about like what they were doing, you know, for the day. So maybe that's a goal for me and you. Podcasting in person one day would be so fun.
That will be a special episode when we actually get a movie talk in the same room together. I mean, which is crazy because that's what we're doing for so many years, and now this podcast has been purely Zoom, which is you know, like a product of pandemic, but also beautiful thing of technology. We can keep these conversations going forever now.
For sure. And I would like to thank everybody out there for listening so that, you know, we can continue to do this and, you know, hopefully make it something that gets you excited about a movie. I mean, that's the best part about this is like, we love movies so much. Pat and I have been able to talk to them. Think about it, 2002 to 2022, that photography retrospective. I mean, that's about the time that I've known you, right? I mean, I think I may have met you in probably 99 or 2000 maybe, right?
When did you start at that was whenever you started at Suncoast? I mean, I started in 2000.
Okay, then I probably started in 2000 or 2001 because you hired me basically.
Yeah.
And then with it, like
I remember because we chatted for just a few minutes when you came in, and then there were plenty of people. I'm like, I'm not fucking standing next to this dude for 8 hours. So I'm gonna put this guy's resume to the top and recommend that they hire you. So because I forget what movies you mentioned, but you definitely talked about a couple cool movies that I was
If
into.
you and I had, if you hadn't done that, I mean, we wouldn't be doing this podcast. That's the cool thing about life, you know, like those little moments that if you had taken my application and put it like just above everybody else's, I got the job, and then, you know, we had this friendship and we get to talk about movies all the time. So I'm grateful for that for sure.
Speaking of movies, you want to talk the Oscars really quick?
Yeah, so
this would be a good chance to still talk about Cruise.
Well. Everything though.
I have definitely not. I have plenty to catching up.
So let me just ask you, Banshees, that's in Bruges, like that's like a sequel, right? So I know you were a huge fan of In Bruges, right?
Huge fan of In Bruges. I mentioned, I saw the Banshees when it first came out, like on opening night, and I did not expect it to get as much attention as it did, but I fucking loved it. Like all four of them were nominated for Best Actor, and it's nominated for Best Picture. So,
wow, yeah. Do you think that it deserves to? I mean,
yeah,
it's a great movie, yeah.
I mean, I have no idea anymore. Okay, like, to be clear, the Oscars are horrible. I fucking hate the Oscars, but I hate watch them. I still love watching them and catching up with them. But like, it is such like a trash way to go about movies. It's not the best movies. There's nothing accurate about it. It's always, very it's an antiquated way to view movies, I think. But like I mean, said,
it's obviously like Hollywood's like puff piece for themselves, and I think that's another reason why for a second to move away from Banshees, I watched Top Gun Maverick. We talked about this for a second, and I hadn't seen it yet, but I was like surprised. Okay, so Top Gun Maverick is like up for Best Picture, right? And I'm like, why? Well, look, that movie fucking rules. It is really, really worth the hype. And my girlfriend and I, she's like, do you think that, like, before we watched it, she's like, this is like a normal like movie that would get up for an Oscar? And it's not. I mean, it's not really. I took an Oscar-winning films class in college, and I remember talking a lot about how like epics are more, their style, dramas are more their style and stuff like that. But an action movie, and I honestly think that they were like, wow, Tom Cruise got people to come to the fucking theater. I mean, Babylon didn't get nominated. That was probably on everybody's list before they saw it. That's a pretty big epic movie with a bunch of stars, but Tom Cruise gets a bunch of like, a sequel to a movie that honestly, I think is better than the original Top Gun. He did everything that film. It was like, okay, it's going to be like Star Wars. And like, by the time they get in there and they destroy the Death Star, like that's the hardest thing. It's like, no. Let's get in there.
I love that comparison.
Let's destroy the Death Star. And it was like a fucking, blip on your radar to like how much more there was to come. Twists and turns, unexpected shit. And I don't want to ruin it for anybody because it's still in theaters, but that movie ruled. I loved it. What did you think of Top Gun Maverick?
I had a fucking great time. Yeah, I saw it in the theater. And I probably haven't seen the original since I was like a kid. Like I don't remember it too much.
Did you rewatch?
No, I haven't rewatched it. I remember it being, a movie I kind of liked when I was younger. But yeah, I had an amazing time. Like I love modern day Tom Cruise for sure. As we mentioned, and hopefully we can do a couple of his more recent movies on the show. But I had an amazing time watching it. So it was also nominated for Best Screenplay. Is that right? Which is, that one's kind of surprised. I'm not saying it was like a bad screenplay, but it was like a pretty straightforward screenplay. I was just surprised at that one. But although I will say, no, go ahead.
No, I just was saying, I think it's just Hollywood just being like, man, like, this is what we used to make films about. And like,
right. But it was like, I was just kind of surprised by it. Although I will say the structure of the story where they don't name the enemy.
Yeah.
Like that's fucking genius. It's like you have this
fucking genius.
Yeah, you like talk about an amazing way. Like that's why that movie made so much fucking money, because it's like literally anybody. Yeah, anybody could just watch it and be like, well, I'm gonna just insert who I don't like into the bad guy, and it kind of works.
100%. Everything was done right. Go see Top Gun Maverick. Like no joke. It is. if you've heard anybody say that it's bad, they're lying to you. It's awesome. My girlfriend and I watched it, and she sat there literally like, oh my God, I just had an anxiety attack. Like, she loved it more than I did. And that's saying a lot. Like, I was thinking like, we're, you know, Top Gun, like the most machismo movie ever. Like, you
Yeah.
think you're going into that, and it's like, but my girlfriend was like, I love this movie. Like, you know, it had everything that you want. It checked all the boxes, as they say.
It definitely has an old school filmmaking vibe. It just turned old, and also like modern blockbuster, and just it's like why you want to see a giant fucking movie going on and blasting you in the face.
One of those things too with like, sorry, one last thing. Tom
Yeah,
Cruise,
no,
like, you know, even seeing Don't
no, I
Look.
want to stand Tom Cruise though.
Well, yeah, but even like the other Don't Look Up, and like you're kind of like getting these like lead characters who are like letting themselves age in movies and stuff like that. It's kind of interesting because, you know, I hadn't seen like a movie where Tom Cruise was like kind of like, I'm gonna play like the old guy, even though like he had to for this, but I haven't seen it where he was like finally like, okay, I'm gonna like, that's gonna be part of the story, and I like that.
Yeah, the aging of it. So sticking with Tom Cruise, so like I knew you liked his earlier stuff, like especially Magnolia. I know you always loved him and that movie. Like, did you like his were you always like down with him with that kind of era when he was like doing like Eyes Wide Shut? He was just basically just trying to work with like the best directors. He wasn't quite like 100% action star. It's like, it sounds like you've been into him because you're kind of like into like what he's doing in the last like 15 years, like with the lunatic action movie making star.
I mean, yeah, I've definitely had like a little bit more of like a respect for him because of the fact that like, yeah, we love going to the movies, and so does everybody who listens to this podcast. And he's like really making like, I just, as a person, as like a human being, that he's like found a way to like really get people excited about movies again is why I love him. And he's doing that by making great art. Like, he's making these films undeniable. So when you see them, you're like, I'm going again the next time, you know? And then marketing wise, he's doing these lunatic stunts because he knows like, okay, like that's another angle of it. So he's like, him himself is checking all the boxes. And have I liked him in the past? Yeah, for sure. I mean, I loved even like the cocky Tom Cruise Cocktail, you know, like my girlfriend and I have that on the list to watch because she's never seen it. I'm like so excited, you know. But like, that's like, Tom Cruise is kind of sucks in that, but you know, like that's the kind of movie it is. Even like Top Gun, it's kind of like cocky Tom Cruise, but like there's something about him, you know, that you just dig. But until like recently, I haven't been like, whoa, this guy, you know, this is like next level movie star. I know he's always been looked at that way, but I'm starting to just, I guess, understand it.
Hell yeah, love it. I mean, I'm definitely down for doing a little double feature. I mean, the two that I would recommend are the last Mission Impossible, Fallout. That's the one with Henry Cavill. Definitely one of the best action movies of this century for sure. There's no doubt about it. But easily the best Mission Impossible. Like that's like a total showcase for him doing all of his own stunts. Like seeing like the amount of planes that he jumped out of for that movie. That's the one when he like broke his ankle while doing a stunt, and it's like they left it in the movie. You could see him limping away in the movie. It's like that was the scene that they kept in the movie. Yeah, so that one is great. And then I would also be down for Edge of Tomorrow, which is the science fiction one he did in 2014.
That was when they changed the name of that film, right?
That which is pretty crazy because like, yeah, the movie did not do as well as they were expecting, because that was kind of like in his definitely in one of his weirdo phases. But it's like this awesome, innovative sci-fi action movie. Bill Paxton's in it. It's basically like a Groundhog Day in the form of like a video game. And I mean, one of the best parts of the movie is that like he plays like a straight up coward in it. Like he's his character is not like the crazy perfect action hero who saves everybody. It's like he plays a straight up coward, and like it's the story arc that he gets in that one combined with like how innovative the sci-fi component is. Those would be the two that I would recommend to like be like, this is like peak late stage Tom Cruise. So
awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely check those out because now I'm on a roll. I just can't help it.
There's a lot to love. And yeah, like I said, so I mean, bringing it back to the Oscars, it's like like looking at like the best picture nominees this year, it's fucking great. And like I haven't seen several still. I haven't seen Tar. That's what I'm most excited to see from Todd Field. I have not seen Triangle of Sadness.
Neither have I.
Or Everything Everywhere All at Once. So actually, like, I mean, half these movies I haven't seen yet, but
I know, totally.
I'm confident. I mean, I love hearing how successful and everybody loves Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like everybody's been really positive on that movie. It's great to see Short Round get nominated for a Best Actor, him coming back from being out of Hollywood for so many years. But no, kind of like you're saying, like Top Gun Maverick would not have been nominated for Best Picture before they implemented the 10 picks,
or
right?
After COVID, you know.
What do you mean after COVID?
Well, just because of the fact that I think the movie business really got hit with after COVID again. I think it's because of the fact that like that movie made a ton of fucking money, you know.
Oh yeah. Well, more so, I mean, it is a great movie. I mean, because of like ever since Dark Knight wasn't nominated, that's when they instilled like the 10 nominees instead of just the 5 nominees to account for those big budget movies that weren't traditionally like nominated or got the respect. And
that's a good point. Yeah.
When that one wasn't nominated, everybody was like, what the hell are you even doing if you're not going to nominate this movie that you don't aren't showing respect from Christopher Nolan just because it's an action movie. So that's when they expanded it to 10. And so that's when you get to include movies like Top Gun and Avatar. It's like neither one of those would have been nominated for Best Picture if it was only 5 picks. So,
and you know, Frances McDormand in a Sarah Polley directed film. I mean, that's got to be. I haven't seen that yet, but I can't wait to. You remember the film No Such Thing? Sarah Polley was in. Man,
I know the title.
It's going back to like 2004 or something, and it was such a bizarre movie that I got to see again. But I hadn't really thought about Sarah Polley in a while. I mean, she was in the Dawn of the Dead remake that I loved. She's just like kind of classic indie film actor, and she directed that. And like, you know, don't count out Frances McDormand for anything. I haven't seen that film yet, but I'm sure she gave a great performance. So there's a lot of good stuff up there.
Yeah, and like I was saying, so it's like we got our Fablemans in there. So it's like
Right.
And Elvis. So it's like Elvis against James Cameron, against Steven Spielberg, against Tom Cruise, and then with a bunch of other great fucking movies. So like it's an impressive like best picture nominee, because I looked at last year just for fun because of how boring they've been the last couple of years. So these are the movies that were nominated for Best Picture last year: Nightmare Alley, Don't Look Up, Dune, Drive My Car, West Side Story, Power of the Dog, Licorice Pizza, Belfast, Coda, and King Richard.
Wow. Yeah, this year beats that.
I mean, I gotta be honest, that's a fucking snore fest. Holy shit. Like who, I mean, some of those movies were, pretty decent, but like talk about like a boring list of fucking movies that most people are not interested in or not talking about. I honestly think that's like why they implemented that fucking slap from Will Smith, is because they were like, this is the most boring shit ever, so we need something that's going to go viral.
Live in people.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. And we kind of mentioned it, like legit the only Paul Thomas Anderson movie that I didn't instantly love on the first watch.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's like,
maybe I got to see it again. I don't know.
I will watch it multiple times in the coming years, I guarantee, because of how much I love Paul Thomas Anderson. But like, I was pretty not impressed with that one, unfortunately. So,
by the way, just got to give a shout out to this is a shirt I designed for an old Friends band called the Websters, who just put out a record on vinyl. So if anybody's out there wants this shirt, you can get it in the vinyl package, probably at their website, thewebsters.com. But that's why I wore the shirt. I wanted to give a little love. They used to come in and record. Anytime the Scissors was recording at Atlas, they would be like on the heels of us. So like they'd be coming in like the door as we were leaving the studio. The Websters, pretty great band. Love you guys.
yeah. We could put a link in the show notes for them.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's pretty good. I mean, maybe next week is the Oscars going to be over by then? Maybe we'll be able to talk a little bit more about the winners and the losers, huh?
No, I think it's in like early March, so not for another month.
Oh, well, maybe then we can talk about the Super Bowl.
Well,
Just
so yeah, I mean, so next week the movie we're watching, Mandy, stars Nicolas Cage, obviously, but with Andrea Riseborough, who is nominated for Best Actress this year from To Leslie, which I saw when it came out in the most empty theater I've ever been in my life. It was
wow.
like it was at the Music Box on like a Friday night, and there was like nobody there, and it just wasn't a movie that got a lot of attention. That's why it was like so surprising that she got a nomination for Best Actress for it. But she was great in it. Mark Maron was in it. It was a good movie. But she is the titular Mandy in the movie we're watching next week, so be good to catch up with that. See
Well,
how
yeah,
good
I've
she
never
is.
seen Mandy, so I'm excited about that.
Oh, the metal nightmare, and just employs the face-off style of Nick Cage. So it's definitely a lot of good stuff to talk about. One last thing we got to mention, would be remiss to, I mean, I don't know the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame too much, but I do know that Warren Zevon is getting some attention because he was nominated. Yeah.
Yeah, so I sent you that list of I think it was just an LA Times article about Zevon and like how he should be nominated. And then lo and behold, somebody must have known that he was going to be nominated, because he did a couple days after. And yeah, you and I, huge Zevon fans. If you want to go back and listen to our episode on the book, Nobody's Bad Luck, right? So that's the name of the book, which was
Nothing's bad luck.
Nothing's Bad Luck. Superb book.
Oh, so good.
Both love Warren Zevon very much. So yeah, hats off to Zevon. I hope he gets it, man. Because
Or just listen to any of his music for sure.
by the
I
way,
mean,
sorry, I was gonna say the one thing about like my prints here, that's totally I totally got the idea to archive them and put the edition number because of Zevon's books. So if anybody doesn't know, Zevon's books, his family has been selling off, and I've told Pat, like, when I get some money, I really want to buy him one of Zevon's personal collection, a book that Zevon actually read, and he puts in his book, which is something I do now, like a picture or like, you know, a greeting card that somebody sent him. He'd put it in there as like a placeholder whenever he read a book, and so the book comes with that, whatever he used for the bookmark, and they stamp like an edition number of how many books it was, and you can buy those books online that were part of his personal collection. So I stole that idea for sure for a lot of my prints. I mean, Zevon is kind of the gift that keeps on giving for me.
definitely an understatement, and couldn't agree more. So love to see that. So anything else?
I think that's it, man. Unless you got anything else to say, I love the movie Bringing Out the Dead. If you're out there listening and you've made it this far, thanks for listening to the full episode, and let us know what you think. We're on Facebook, on Instagram and YouTube, all of the social channels. Let your friends know about us if they like films. It'd be really great to have a conversation. That's my favorite thing too, is I love talking to you, but every once in a while talking to somebody who listened and had opinions that maybe differ from ours, or maybe they agree. Always good to hear some feedback.
We love talking movies. Love to watch what you want to see. And yeah, next week we'll be continuing the Cage Fest with Mandy. Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it, Pat. In the meantime, enjoy yourself, and maybe watch a couple Tom Cruise movies.
Oh man, keeping my week going with them. Always a bright spot.
Right. All right. We'll see you next week then.
See you, bud.
Peace.